What's up, everybody? This is the Heretic Man here, and today we're talking about what many consider to be the manliest of media franchises, Warhammer 40K, and specifically the game Darktide. Oh my god.
100 hours. This is what 100 hours in this game looks like.
If you're unfamiliar with Darktide, it's a sequel slash spin-off of Vermintide 2. If you're unfamiliar with Vermintide 2, my brother in Sigmar, you have been missing out. Darktide is basically Left 4 Dead in space, with talent trees and a progression system. You and 3 other teammates fight through a series of different levels with increasing difficulty. Vermintide 2 is the same thing, but with swords, magic, a fantasy setting, and a whole bunch of ratty boys. Vermintide 2 is one of my favorite games, and I've been dying to talk about it for a very long time. This is also coming from someone who has absolutely no fucking clue what's happening in the universe of Warhammer. Is there racism in Warhammer?
Oh,
yes. Yes, there's so much racism in Warhammer.
I'm glad you asked.
Oh, I am so glad you asked. Let me tell you about those fucking knife ears.
So when I heard Darktide was coming out and bringing the same formula I love to the futuristic 40k setting, I was praising Sigmar on the daily. But then I heard what people were saying about it after launch. Big oof moment. So I decided to hold off on playing Darktide until Fat Shark, the developers, fixed some of the major issues that have been keeping me away. Like a crack addict impatiently waiting to get out of rehab. At last, the perfect opportunity has arrived. Because this video is sponsored by Fat Shark. And before you run to the comments, no, they are not censoring my criticism or praise of the game. They are very in tune with their community and aware of certain aspects people don't like about Darktide. And the nice thing about this video is all of my praise and criticism is going directly to the developers. So there's 2 major questions I want to answer for you today. Is Darktide better than Vermintide 2? The short answer is no. The long answer is not yet. Is Darktide worth playing? 100%. Yeah! You should have paid the fine. Oh my god. Oh my god,
Wow.
come get me.
Wow.
I got exploded over here. And now is a pretty good time to check out this game, since it's on sale on Steam for 35% off, and it's just released on Xbox and Xbox Game Pass. And if you want to check out the game, links are down below. Patch 13 recently came out for Darktide, and the biggest addition is this extensive talent tree for all 4 classes, something many fans have been asking for. Some talents can change abilities or play styles, and some give small passive bonuses. You gain a talent point when you level up, so you can flesh out your build after every level, as opposed to every 5 levels like in Vermintide. But unlike some other games, if you choose to spec into like tank stats, you aren't locked into just speccing into a tank role. So you can mix and match, and you're not shoehorned into building like a pure tank or anything. There's also no cost to respecking, so it's wildly convenient to try out new strategies. Now, it's important to remember that Vermintide 2 at this point has had like 6 years of consistent updates, support, free DLC, and paid expansions. That game has gotten a lot of love, and Darktide is closing in on its first year. It started off rough, but Fat Shark has a pretty good track record when it comes to adding content, awesome new weapons, maps, and so hopefully they continue supporting this game for years to come. So again, if you're mildly curious about playing this game, I'm going to tell you the things I really like about it, and if you're a fan of the Vermintide games, I'm going to tell you what I think would make the game a lot better. Where Darktide really needed to shine is just a core gameplay. Something is so satisfying in these games with just like cleaving your way through hordes of enemies. You feel the weight behind every blow, every fast and heavy attack. So if you're a major fan of Left 4 Dead, there's a very good chance you will like Darktide. There's a ton of different weapons to choose from as you slaughter your way through the hordes of chaos. Like this fucking electric baseball bat. Oh, it's so awesome. Beware me, I am Zeus! Yeah! One cool thing about Darktide's weapons is each one has this new additional special attack, whereas before they just had light and charged heavy attacks. So now you can do stuff like this. If I do a special melee attack with this grenade launcher, I think I shoot a grenade in the enemy.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Wait, really? Let's see.
Boom! Yo, that's pretty sick. The ranged weapons in this game are really fucking badass. There's so much fun to use and just mow down people with machine guns or grenade launchers. Dude, it just, when you shoot people with some of the guns, it just turns into a cloud of red mist. Every class can also choose from 3 different grenade types. Now, if you pick Ogren, which you should because big boys reign supreme, one of the options is a literal fucking rock. I love this. It's like, what would you rather have? A box of grenades or a rock? Watching the melee combat of Vermintide is what instantly sold me on the game. It just looked like way too much fun. So if you like what you're seeing on screen, there's a pretty good chance you'll enjoy it too. Now let's talk about the graphics and art style. Well, it's really cool to see a first-person shooter type game in the 40K universe. And the art style is fucking spot on. I don't know what the hell I'm looking at, but good golly, it looks gorgeous. I do have a 4090 graphics card and a pretty solid rig, so I didn't run into any optimization issues or lag. So for some people, they might have to run the game at lower settings. But every corner of the game is breathtaking to witness. I mean, this game looks good, and it makes immersing yourself in the world very easy. Regrettably, the level design is not as impressive as the skyboxes and backdrops. There's a few too many levels that feel like you're just battling through an endless stream of very similar looking corridors. But most times when a bad guy started coming and you started swinging, you don't think too much about it. Darktide has an outstanding variety of enemies you can purge and mash into a pulp, ranging from like basic infantry to heavily armored bulwarks.
Oh, that's beautiful. Praise Nurgle.
Oh god.
Oh my
Daddy
god.
Nurgle.
Oh my god. He ate me.
Ow.
Guys with giant hammers, evil dogs that pounce on you like the hunter. It's fun to learn the mechanics of each enemy, how to dodge their attacks and deal with them.
He wants to get the mutant a hug. He needs a hug.
Oh boy.
He punched the fuck out of you.
Yup. You see, games like this are really only as fun as the combat and the enemies you fight and the tools you use. And Darktide excels at all 3. And it has enough diversity and freshness to separate it from the fantasy setting in Vermintide. The Demon Ghost is Darktide's version of a supercharged witch. This thing is ridiculously strong, and if you play with noobs, there is a very high chance they will walk into it and trigger aggro. Oh, we can get past it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna actually touch it. The random does.
Oh.
Oh, great. It's going to be coming after all of us.
The fucking random, dude. Don't fuck with this thing. I'd say avoid it like a bleeding man with AIDS. Unlike every other enemy, you can't stagger it, dodge it, or even outrun it. So don't even try. Bring it down, bring it down!
Oh, it's so close. Come on.
Got it. And of course, you need a badass soundtrack to accompany such incredible gameplay, and Darktide delivers. There's some baller-ass tracks to listen to, I tell you what. There's a lot of neat systems around upgrading gear, trading out affixes. Unlike Diablo 4, where you need a degree in calculus to figure out if your build is good or not, you don't need that. The affixes on weapons are pretty straightforward, and it's easy to prioritize what you need or want. This is one of those games where playing with your buddies and leveling up as a group is a lot more satisfying than playing solo. Oh!
Your mother.
What the fuck?
Oh,
Holy
baby,
shit.
look at that fucking damage.
That was
fast.
Holy fuck.
Did you see that shit? So overall, the core gameplay of Darktide is worth checking out alone. So here's the part where I tell you what hasn't improved. Now, it could just be my bias towards Sigmar and killing ratty boys, but Vermintide 2 had these things called tomes and grimoires. They were basically hidden books scoured throughout each level that would make your team weaker, but if you beat the level with it, you'd get better rewards. It was always fun scouring the maps for these things, and there was a lot of tricky platforming, so it felt really good when you figured out exactly how to get these things. Tomes and grimoires are in Darktide, but for some reason, they only appear sometimes as secondary objectives. And I don't know what was wrong with the old system that warranted a change. Speaking of random, you can select missions, but on the map screen, they like have a time limit. It's really weird. In Vermintide 2, you could go into the customs and just like see the different campaigns like you should be able to and play the missions in order. I have no idea what the order of missions is in this game. Now here's where I'm gonna say the most controversial thing in my gaming career. Darktide should have had loot boxes. Put down the tomatoes, and just hear me out. Vermintide 2 is the only game I've ever seen that has done loot boxes right. And the secret is that they simply didn't monetize them. I know, it's crazy, right? Again, it played into that risk reward. You could find things like loot dices, tomes, and grimoires to upgrade the loot box you'd get at the end of every match if you completed it. The system would work perfectly fine in Darktide and give players reasons to explore the maps more or confront the demon ghost. Another thing that's somewhat disappointing about this game is that instead of having a real cast of characters, they replaced them all with like generic custom character templates. Now, to put this in perspective, imagine if in Left 4 Dead 2, Rochelle, Coach, Ellis, and Nick weren't in the game at all, and they were replaced with generic custom characters. I don't even know if Left 4 Dead 2 would feel like the same game. The playable characters in Darktide aren't terrible. They have like some funny banter here and there, but it's nowhere near as good as the characters from Vermintide 2, who were real people from different walks of life trying to survive the end times. They added a lot of personality, humor, and charm to the world, and now the story in Darktide, it feels like muted, irrelevant. I suppose it might not be a huge deal to you if you're not super invested in the Warhammer story, but for me, I mostly play these kinds of games because the gameplay kicks ass and to socialize with my buddies. So it is what it is. I tried looking into some Warhammer lore on the end times. This is the most complicated story and lore humanly possible. Just look at the Wikipedia page. It doesn't stop. It just keeps going. Vermintide 2 did a really fantastic job of making me feel like I understood what was happening. It's like, there's a bunch of rats and they built this thing called the Skittergate. And you see it at the start of the game, and that's where the rats come from, I guess. So fuck it, let's go destroy it. Sounds awesome. I really don't understand what's happening in Darktide. The story is like you're some recruit in an organization and there's a traitor amongst you, and you go out and do missions to prove yourself. For some reason, obviously there's more to it than that, but that's how it comes across to a newbie like me. And lastly, I thought I was done talking about scoreboards in video games, but apparently not. Game developers be like, I got one more in me. So in Vermintide 2, the end of round screen showed a bunch of important stats: how many times you revived teammates, damage taken, damage to bosses, ranged kills, special kills, etc. This was pretty important to gauging how well you were playing and if your class was performing as intended. At the end of a round in Darktide, however, the game just shows your team's kills and nothing else. It doesn't tell you or show you what you contributed to the team. In a co-op PvE game based around teamwork, I understand this was done to combat toxicity, but removing the scoreboard is making me more toxic. This is why I want to know how many kills I have, because I want to know how much I carried the fucking team just now. And let me tell you, boys, I just been carrying the team. I'm not going to finish the mission in protest until you all acknowledge that I got more kills than you. The thing is, if someone's gonna talk shit about stats in Vermintide or Darktide, they got about 15 seconds to do so, because that's how long those endgame stats are on screen for. The important thing is, like, if I'm a lower level character playing on a higher difficulty with my buddies, I want to see if my damage and kills are up to snuff, so I know if I'm carrying my homies or holding them back. So yeah, you might eliminate some small pocket of toxicity by removing the scoreboard, but you also remove any sense of pride in your personal performance. I don't think it's a good trade. Warhammer fans seem like they're some of the toughest motherfuckers out there for some reason, so I think they can handle a little bit of trash talk. In any case, Fat Shark is definitely on the right track with their updates to Darktide. It is a good game, and even though I might still prefer Vermintide 2, I want Fat Shark to keep making these games. It's nice to have this formula in a different setting. You know, Valve sure as hell ain't gonna make Left 4 Dead 3. Should you play Warhammer 40K Darktide? Well, if you enjoy co-op PvE experiences, then that's an absolute yes from me, Chief. If you're a fan of the Vermintide games, there might be some aspects that are disappointing or bother you, but at its core, the game is fun. And at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. But what do you think? Have you tried out Darktide? Are you considering playing it? Do these stairs go up? Let me know your thoughts and opinions on Darktide in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the Act Man for more awesome content. Thank you, Fat Shark, for sponsoring this video. All right, everyone, that's all I got for today. This is the Act Man signing out. Peace.